In this video, we're going to make a very basic crosshair with a basic linear interpolation. As you can see here, as I move my mouse, the crosshair will follow or interpolate with the linear chart here. So let's start to look how we can create this basic linear interpolation. So now let's start to look how to use linear interpolation in Chart.js. And I'm going to make a very basic linear interpolation with one point at one side and another point at the other side. So let's start to look at how to do this by first of all getting the Chartjs border template. So go to chartjs3.com, getting started, this specific link to grab the border template, grab all of this. And this link, by the way, is also available in the description box. Once you copy the chunk of code, if you want to understand the code, watch this video here that explains that all. Going to put that in there. Let's cut this out and put the title in here. Save, refresh. There we are. Let's maximize the size of it, 80%. And of course, if we are working with interpolation, it would make more sense to have a scatter or a line chart. In this case, a scatter chart makes a lot of sense. You can do a line chart as well, but basically a scatter chart is on the y-axis and on the x-axis a linear value. With line chart you can do this as well, but you have to do some conversion for that. But a scatter chart does basically the same. So once we did that, of course, we don't have the points. So I'm going to put in 2 points, one on this side and one on the other end of the chart. So what I'm going to do here, remove these labels because we don't need labels here, but we're going to change this. I'm going to put in only 2 data points, curly braces, and then we're going to say a bracket x and let's say here number 3, and then the y will be number 3 as well, comma. Then I'm going to say here we do exactly the same. Let's copy this, put that in there, and let's say this will be number I guess number 6 and number 12. That's fine. If I save this, refresh. Alright, I guess I have a mistake here. Let's see what's going on. I think it's exactly the opposite that I need to do. My bad. Bracket here, there, curly braces here. Save, refresh. Alright, so now we have this, but it doesn't show a line yet. So let's start to fix that line. Say comma here, show line equals true, and now we have a line. Very important here is because the order is important. If you have a different order, the line will follow that specific order. With a line chart, it will have just a default order, which is always predictable, but this one, it will depend on the structuring here. So now what we're going to do is we're going to work, and I guess what is very suitable to make is a crosshair where we hover over, and once we hover over a certain part, it will follow this, the crosshair will follow the chart line of the line chart here basically. For this, what we're going to do is we need to use here first of all a function to recognize when we mouse move our mouse on the canvas. This is very important. So we don't use hover but mouse move, and the reason why is if we do hover, it will recognize we're on top of the canvas, yes and no, but that's it. So that would mean that if we are hovering here, we are on the canvas, but after that it stops calculating because we're on the canvas. So with the mouse move, we are getting the coordinates instead, and that is what we want. So we're going to say here, my chart. And the reason why for my chart is I want to pinpoint, of course, the chart canvas. Then I'm going to say here the canvas itself. And then we're going to say here, add event listener to create a new event. And this event will be our mouse move event. And let me just put in some extra enter so we have some more space. So once we have the mouse move here, I want to say comma, and then of course I want to trigger or register the event itself. I need the event because this event will help us to figure out what the coordinates are. And of course, when we do this, I want to say here, let's say draw crosshair to create a function here to draw the item itself. So what I need here is first of all my chart. I want to get the chart object, and then I want as well the event itself. So once we did this, now we can create our function. And our function is called the draw crosshair, and then we're going to say here two objects or arguments. It's chart. Oh, sorry, this is not the arguments. This is the parameter. So chart, because these are the arguments. This is parameter chart, and then here, let's say mouse move. And then, so now we have these, and let's start to use them nicely, because what we want to do is we want to draw the lines here. So what we're going to do here is, first of all, we have this chart object. We can do here now an object destructuring, which is really useful. So if you don't know object destructuring, I have a video in the description box, understanding Chartjs object destructuring. So that's very useful as well. So we're going to put in this here. And then next what I need is here the CTX. I need the data. I need the chart area. And then what I need here is, I guess we can use here the left, the top, the bottom, and the right. Next what I would like to have here, put a comma. Also the scales, because this will be very important for us. Let's say here X and Y. So once we have this, we can now start to work on, let's grab here this item to get the coordinates. So let me show you exactly what I'm talking about. So if I console log, then I'm going to grab here the mouse move. If I save this, refresh, open up the developer tab, hover over here, you can see here we get a lot of mouse event being registered, and you can see here what we need. We basically need the, let me double check here, we need the offset, these two here. Offset X, offset Y. So what I need to do here is this. I'm going to say offset X, and if I copy this and do an offset Y, you will get the coordinates of our mouse position, as you can see here. So what I want to do now is that you can see here all of these being registered nicely as I move. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out this. I will say here constant X coordinates for that, and I'm going to cut out this. Say here constant Y core equals that. Alright, so now we have these two coordinates, and that's very important for us. Now what I want to do is, let's see, we need basically to draw the item, but we will need, for interpolation, we will need a specific function, or sorry, a formula. So I'm going to grab the formula I already prepared in advance, because this formula is quite tough to type, and we're going to look at the interpolation here. So this is the formula, and this formula will depend if you understand what's the Y interpolation. And if you really wonder what is interpolation, basically interpolation is the, if we would know number 8 here, what would be the matching value on the X scale? What is the matching value? And that's basically what we need. So you can see here all of these values here, and I will get to them and explain them step by step, because now it becomes easier once we have all of this. So the first thing here, we have the Y last and the Y first. This is important, and because we have a linear interpolation from one point all the way to the other point, and it's just only one or two data points starting and ending, this is easy. If you would have going up and down, you would have to calculate for every specific section, but because this is just a basic introduction, I'm going to calculate this point and that point here. So what is then the Y first and last? Let's start to work on it. So it's a constant, and we're going to say here Y first equals, so we're going to get the Y first. And what is the Y first? Well, if you look at it, you can see here the Y first is number 3, because this data point is 3.3, and this one here, the Y last, would be then number 12, which is basically the very top point here. So this is very important. So I'm going to say here Y first, we can say here number 3, or what we can do is just grab the formula for this. So we can just grab the formula to get this data here. And to do this, what we need to do here is we're going to say here, data, and then data sets index 0. Remember this here. We have this data, that's why we are allowed to go here. And what we're just doing from data sets index 0, and then we just get the data index 0 for that, and then number Y, or the character Y. So we're going to do this. Data dot index number and then Y. So that's the first one. So the last one would be basically, you can say here last, you could say here number 1, or what we could do is we're going to get here the last value in an array. We're going to calculate what is the last, we're going to calculate the array length, and then minus 1. So we're going to say constant, let's say here array length equals, and what I want to do then is calculate this data array dot length. Then we say here minus 1. Once we did this, let's copy this, put it in here. Why minus 1? Well, remember an array is zero-based calculation, start with 0, and the second value in an array would be number 1. So if you have a length of 2, minus 1 to get the value. So now we have this, and let's put a 7 column here. Those two. Alright. So next, so now we have this formula here. What I want to do then is to prepare a few items here. What we need to do is we have this and that. Then we have here the interpolate. And the interpolate is the number that we know that we want. For example, 8. But what I want to do here, instead of getting a solid fixed number of number 8, I want to hover over it here based on my pixels, whatever the pixel coordinates are on the y, and convert that pixel coordinate to a matching number. Chart.js has a built-in function for this. So that's why we have the interpolate y, and what that will be is eventually the following. It's a constant interpolate y equals. And then what we're going to do here is we're going to say here, we're going to get the y, and this y comes from the y scale here. So we can use this, and we say here, get get value for pixel. So whatever the pixel is that we're hovering on, that is the one I want. And of course, what is the pixel we're looking for? That is the y coordinates of our mouse. So we're going to put that in there. Once we have this, you can see already we have like this point and that. And I realized I didn't explain this too, not that deeply. Basically is this. We're going to grab all of these values except for the x. This is the one we don't know. So we want to calculate here eventually what is the x. But we're going to just grab all of these step by step, and then after we can just quickly calculate here nicely. So what do we need here is we have the y last minus the y first. That's basically these three. Is also that one minus y first. So we can calculate that part already, and then after we need to get the x last and x first, which is basically just number 3 all the way to number 6. So what I'm going to do is, let's calculate this here, which I will call our y div. So constant y div, and of course you can give it anything you want. And all I do here is the y last minus y first. So that is basically this part here done. Alright, so then how do we do this one here? Well, we have the y interpolate, and basically we could say here constant y div interpolate, I'll just call it like that, equals, and then the y div interpolate will be this minus y first. Alright, now we have these two. Final one is eventually getting this one, and these two are still need to be multiplied with each other before we divide it by this. So we are almost done. So let's get the x last and the x first. So let's get those. I guess we can put them in here. What I will say here, constant, this will be the x div equals basically this formula. Just copy this, put it in there. So now what I want to do is I want to get here, let's see, I need to assign those. So what are those? Well, remember what I said, 3 and 6, because we only have 2 data points here. So in this case, I can basically grab all of this. Let's put it here up because the x should be above the y. Let's say x, and this one will be x and x. Very straightforward, nothing new here. So then we have this, and now we can say here, this one is done. And what I want to do now is, alright, you can see here the formula. We have this, which is basically this x div. And then we can just copy it. Let me just copy this, and we're just going to break it down here again. The x div is already a pre-calculate of this. The y div interpolate is the difference of these two. And finally we have the y div at the bottom here. So what you're going to do is this, multiply by that, divide by y div here. Alright, so we're going to say here, let's do console.log. And what I want to do is say here, this multiplied by that. And once we did that, we want to divide that. And what we're going to do is, I'm just going to give this a priority, although I do believe it already gives a priority. So we're going to say divide this by diff y, a y diff. And then, once that is done, finally we do the plus of x first. Clear. So now, once we did this, we have the console log. Let's save that. Refresh. And then, if I hover over, we would see here. So if I go to the 4, most likely we should be very close to the 3.5 or somewhere. Oh, sorry. This is the 4, so this is 3.32. If I go to, let's say, very close to 4.5 here, as you can see here, the console log shows the x value here. So if I go in here, this part here, that will be very close to that. Or let me just get this very simple one. Number 8. Where is number 8? Number 8 should be here somewhere, which is 4.66. Alright, so our interpolation works, but you might say, well, I don't see it anyway. Alright, let's start to make this work. Let's say here now this is the constant new x. I'm just going to give it a new x value. I don't know what to give a proper name for it, but so new x would be the, or interpolate x. That's the real x interpolate. That's what we basically calculated. Alright, let's remove this. There we are. So now, what I'm going to do is let's draw something. So when we draw something, what I want to do is I want to draw it like a crosshair that when I move it, it will follow this. Instead of following my mouse, it will follow the perfect line here. So to do this, what I'm going to do here is constant, or sorry, not even constant, we're going to say ctx first. And then we say here begin path. To say in the canvas, we're going to draw a new shape that is independent of anything else. Once we have this, I'm going to say a ctx.stroke style to give it a color. And this color will be, let's give it black for now, just simple. So then I'm going to say ctx.line width, and this line will be equal to 1 once we have that. Now, what I want to do is let's draw the horizontal line, and the horizontal line here. Well, let's start at it. Our horizontal line will be based on here from left to the right of the chart area. This is luckily quite easy to do. So what I'm going to say here, ctx.move to, and then what I need to do is, well, if you're going to have the line on the horizontal, we need to make sure we have the x and y value. So the x value is given because that will be left or right. When we have the move to, that will be starting point, and later on we have the ctx line to, ctx.line to, which would be basically the ending point of this line. This one is quite easy because we can say your left and right. The issue here is the y coordinates. So the y coordinates is basically this one here above that we already have. We already defined it here. Let's copy this. We're going to grab that one because that is basically the one that we pre-calculated in pixels. So this is very important to remember. So once we did that, I'm going to say here ctx.stroke to draw the line. If I save this, refresh. Now, as you can see here, what is happening, we get this line, but of course the line is not being updated and it just keeps on drawing. So I don't want this, but you do see it starts to work somehow. So how do we fix this? Well, there's a very, very simple trick for it. I'm going to put it in here, or not even in here. I'm going to put it at the very top. This is a built-in item, it's a chart.update. And then this update, we're going to say here equals to none, or sorry, not equal to none, quotation, quote, or string value of none. Why? So what will happen, it will update, but it will not create an animation. But it will always refresh as we hover over our, or sorry, not mouse over our canvas. So if I save this now, refresh, there you are. You can see now it's being drawn, but you get an illusion now that it's moving. It's not really moving. It's being drawn again, 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 and then refreshes and removes the old drawing. And that's it. So that's very fancy trick here. Alright. But we have this, but we're not done yet because I need to get now this item here, the vertical line that will match it nicely. So let's start to work on that. So let's copy this. I'm going to say here, vertical line. So the vertical line will be slightly different. So what we're going to do in the vertical line is, first of all, we must understand the up and down. That's the top, and here the bottom. So that's number one. That's just basically this point to here, because we still want a line covering from this point to there. But what we need to do now is when we move, it should match this here, not even following my mouse. No, it should match the line. It should follow the line instead of the mouse or the cursor. So what we're going to do here is we're going to remove this and remove that. And we're going to use a built-in functionality. This built-in functionality is called x.getPixel for value. And basically what I want is I want to grab the value that we pre-calculated in here in the interpolate. Remember, that's the value. We're going to convert this now back into a pixel. What we did here is the interpolate. We was just getting the number, the value, our pixel number on our hoover, and then convert it into a value. But now we're doing exactly the opposite. So that's quite interesting. So I'm going to grab this one here, and I'm going to say this one should be in there. And then of course we're going to do the same here. Copy this, put that in there. If I save this, refresh, let's see now, there you are. So now we have this, and it follows nicely, not the mouse anymore, but it follows the line. Of course, you can see here, well, we have some issues. Look, if I go here up, what happened here? If I go here, and if I go down here, we have all of these issues that we need to solve. So let's start to solve that one. So what we need to do here is to create a simple if statement. And first of all, I want to block out the cursor. And what I mean by that is, we're going to create here a very simple. Let's see, where should we do it? Should we do it here? I think we can do that here. That's fine. I'm going to say if. And the reason why I'm doing it here is that if we would be outside of the item, we want to make sure it's being updated and refresh basically the item and hide it. So this should be intact here and should not be in the if statement. What we're going to do here is, we're going to say quite simply, if we are within the chart area coordinates. So we say if. And then I realize that I need to go one more down, because what do I need is I need this information here. So if our x coordinate is larger than left, and if x coordinate is smaller than right, so basically if I am hovering in here or if I'm hovering on there, in that case I don't want to draw anything. But of course I want to say as well, the same story applies for the y coordinate. So we say if y would be bigger than top, which is basically the top coordinates here, and if you're wondering why bigger, well, because this is 0, and if you go down, it increases itself in pixels. So the higher we go, the lower in pixel we are going. We have. So anyway, that's chart area. Understand that part. So then, what we want to do here, and y core should be smaller than the bottom. All right. Once we have this, what I want to do then is I want to cut the entire item that we have here and replace it or nest it within this if statement. So once we did this, we're almost done. Proper indentation here. Let's put this all together. Let's clean up that. Alright, there we are. Save, refresh. So now if I hover over this, it works, but you will see if I scroll down here and keep on going down, I'm going outside of our area, and this, well, it is correct. It just basically, we have the interpolation that calculates this, and if you're going outside of here, it's doing an extrapolation. And it extrapolates, and what that really means is it will calculate outside. So that's very interesting here. It does understand and will calculate outside the known area. That's basically an extrapolation. So that is fine, but I don't want to have that here outside. So what I want to do, I want to block this area. The moment I'm going down here, this line is fine, but we are not allowed to have a vertical line that goes outside of the chart area. So what I'm going to do here is another if statement. We're going to say if, and then what we want to do here is we want to get the pixel. If the pixel is basically outside or oh, sorry, you can see here, this is a big problem. Wow, this is not really a problem. We need to remove the tooltip for this, because you can see here this tooltip will block our effect. So I'm going to, let's remove that one as well. Tooltip in the plugins. So we have the plugins, and then we're going to say here tooltip, and then we're going to say here enabled, false, save, refresh. Alright, so if we move over it, no more tooltip, there we are. Alright, and probably what we have to do here, let's do that on quickly, the point or hit radius 0. Then we should, if I save this, refresh, if I now hover here, I guess there's something else as well, the hover hit radius or the point hit radius. I will just figure out later on. What we need to do here is the following. We're going to create an if statement here. Let's fix this first. And what I want to do is we want to get, again, the pixels. So we say get pixel for value, and the value will be x value. And then what I want to do is if, or we want to draw this only if this will be equal or larger to left. And once we have this, put that in there, and then save, refresh. So let's see if we have that now. Alright, interesting. I am probably having something not working. Hold on. Alright, so my bad. I realize, of course, I have my notes, and I'm just looking at my notes, and I can see here, of course, what is the issue? X value. This is a mistake of mine. I have the X value in my notes or in my mind as well. And of course, it's not the X value that we want. We want to grab here I guess that's the official name is the X core, the X coordinates. Or is that the X coordinates? So you get the value of the pixel, which is X interpolated. Alright, save that, refresh. So now we should have no error, alright. And if I go here down, look at that. That looks beautiful, absolutely stunning. Of course, I warn you again, this is just based on 2 data points here. You could, and you might say, well, what if I do now extend this length to another one by adding another item? You could do this, but this can create an issue if the numbers are not in a linear structure. So if you would say this will be now number 10, you will see we get a difference. Oh, well, hold on, I need to make sure that this is extended to number 9, let's say here. And if you do this, you can see here it's pre-calculating going to number 10, but of course not in a linear way, or this goes in a linear way from this point to that point, but it will not follow the line here. So that, of course, is a bit more advanced, and probably a for loop or a loop or for each loop can help us with that, but that's far more different. However, now we have this basic interpolation here. We can create this nice line that looks quite stunning and absolutely beautiful to have. So next, or the final item that we had to solve was this hover item here. Basically what we have to do here, we have the hit radius, which would trigger the hit item, but also the point radius, to make sure that we just remove the entire dot on its own. Just put it on 0, so we say the amount of pixels is equal to 0, refresh, there we are. And once we go there, this looks absolutely phenomenal and works. So now we have it all working. So if you enjoyed this video and maybe you want to go a bit more advanced with this, in that case I'm going to recommend you this video series here. This is a real advanced video series which is called the Chartjs Coin Market Cap, where we built it, we create a crosshair, we're going to create interpolation, and it does so many things. It's a massive series here right now, 49 videos and counting.